Hello?
Hi, Dad.
Ness, my boy! It's so good to hear from you. How are things?
Listen, Dad, I really don't have time to talk right now. Can I just borrow some money?
Sure. I just transferred $50,000 into your account. But hey, listen, I know you're out playing with your friends, but make sure you don't work too hard, okay?
Please excuse me if I don't take advice on how to spend my time from a man that abandoned his family years ago, okay?
Hey, listen, hello?
Hey, Ness, did you get what we need?
Yep.
Ness, it looks like you just bought cheeseburgers, cigarettes, and beer? What are we supposed to do with that?
Listen, I just need something to help take the edge off. I can't do this anymore, Paul. I've seen too many things, okay? Do you even know what it's like to beat a man to death with a baseball bat?
Jeff was just beaten half to death by a fire hydrant and has a mushroom growing out of his head. He needs to see a doctor. He's going to die if we don't treat his wounds.
Hello, little children. Say fuzzy pickles.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Region Free Gamers podcast, the podcast fluent in gaming. My name is Arnie, and I will be your host for today. I'm currently sitting here in my beautiful striped shirt, my shorts, and my baseball cap, holding my trusty bat that I've just used to bludgeon several police officers and skate punks to death. Before I head into my local convenience store to withdraw the $77,000 that my dad has deposited into my bank account, that I will use to then buy 17 hamburgers and 8 cups of coffee that I furiously shove into all of the pockets I have. I'm going to need to remind everyone that is listening right now that you should definitely go to our link tree at linktr.ee/regionfreegamers and follow us everywhere. Follow our socials, get on our Discord, and obviously support us on Patreon. Shout out to new patron Ray Ray, big member of the Discord, been following us for a little bit, so glad to finally get some of that sweet cash out of his hands that I can use to buy more, NFTs or something. I don't know what I'm buying this week.
I can't believe he's actually giving us money, considering that ever since he joined our Discord, we've cost him it's got to be hundreds, maybe thousands of dollars in ill-advised purchases. Like, anything he asks us, should I get this? Yes.
Yes.
The answer is always yes. You never say no to somebody asking you if they should buy video games. And as you can hear, I'm not alone for this episode. So let me get on with the introductions. Sitting to my sort of bottom left on the screen here, using her psychic powers to communicate with sentient piles of vomit, it is Kelly. Hello, Kelly. How are you doing?
Hello. It's a great evening here. So I'm super excited to talk about Earthbound. Love the game.
I am literally vibrating with excitement right now. And then to my immediate left on the screen here, off in the far-flung reaches of the Yukon, sitting atop a beautiful mountaintop with his signature ponytail and his martial arts gi, it's Paul. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing great, but my stats are really garbage right now. It's going to take some time for me to catch up to you guys.
Yeah, you came to the party way too fucking late. You're just dying all over the place. And finally, coming over the horizon, riding atop an ancient sea beast of legend, majestically surrounded by several monkeys, is returning champion Stephan Reese, aka Art of Nintendo Power. Stephan, how are you doing today?
I'm really good. You can't tell, but my genitals are blurred out right now.
No.
The beauty of the audio medium is that we can really paint a picture with words. Oh my god. So yeah. Stephan, I hear you've been doing a lot of crazy work, a lot of cool projects coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So over the last few years, what started as branding myself as the Art of Nintendo Power became a 501c nonprofit called the Interactive Art Collection. So originally I was a collector of many things, but I got into collecting original art from the video game industry, the early video game industry, and I really sort of focused on Nintendo Power Magazine. I had a big passion for the magazine, but also like that was just sort of what I was finding in searching for other things. I was talking to Nintendo employees and former gameplay counselors and that kind of thing. And so I was accruing these giant lots of original art from Nintendo Power Magazine. So I decided to turn that into something a little more worthwhile than just sitting around in my game room.
Absolutely.
And so I formed a 501c nonprofit, again, called the Interactive Art Collection. And we are a completely free pop-up museum, essentially. We're a touring art museum. We
awesome.
piggyback mostly on retro gaming conventions, just because that kind of fits our theme. But then sometimes like an anime convention will ask me too. So it's there's definitely a big cross section of interest between Nintendo Power Magazine and a lot of other kind of pop culture outlets. So we piggyback off of retro shows, and we do we bring them the art to the people. Right now, the Art of Nintendo Power is our flagship exhibit, but as we grow, I'm absolutely going to have other exhibits. I already have. We showed at Portland Retro Gaming Expo 2019. We did a pop-up museum that was centered around Nintendo gameplay counselors, where I recreated the workspace of a counselor in the 90s using 100% objects from the gameplay counselor call center. So including the television and the phone and the I had all the jackets and little doodles that they drew while they were on the phones with the kids, and it was a really cool display. So the Art of Nintendo Power is definitely getting the most attention right now because it's the new shiny thing, and it's really cool to bring sort of a highbrow adult lens to this form of media that was squarely pointed at children. And so and to really just sort of show people like, no, this is like genuinely art in the very classic sense of art. And so it's sort of been my life's mission for the last couple of years, and I don't see it slowing down at all. It's only going to get bigger and bigger, especially now that we're pulling out of COVID, because I really sort of started putting in a lot of work right before COVID, and I'm like, great, I've got E3 booked, and I've got all these shows booked, and PAX West, and all this stuff, and then COVID hits, and everything gets canceled. So yeah, pulling out of COVID now, in 22 and 23, look for us at your local convention. And also, if you have a local convention that you would like us to be at, absolutely have them reach out. I'm Art of NP, or if you just Google Art of Nintendo Power, you'll find me. It'll be the first thing that you find. And just, you can tell your local game conventions that you are interested in having us there. And I don't charge anything for the show, and it's just the only thing that I ask is that the conventions kind of get us there, right? So I'm always happy to talk to any shows, no matter what distance or what size. That's sort of part of the idea of the 501c3, is it helps me kind of pay my way for shows that can't pay their way, or can't pay my way. So if you have a show that you want to see me at, absolutely, point them in my direction and let them know that you're interested.
That's awesome, man. I remember seeing your 2019 display, that counselor display, and a lot of the newer displays you've done that you post pictures of, and it really is like, it's presenting the art in such a different way to me now, but still has that same effect of taking me back to when I was a lot younger and looking at these magazines and sort of gawking at how beautiful a lot of this was. And to see it now in sort of a curated, organized display is awe-inspiring. I mean, just seeing all the work you've put into accruing all the art itself, and now that you're actually doing something with it as opposed to keeping it to yourself, just sharing that experience with all these other people is great to see. Let me ask you, is there any way that people can support your nonprofit directly?
Again, as a 501c3 nonprofit, we can take donations, and they are fully tax deductible in the United States and Canada.
Awesome.
But again, I don't have the actual status is like pretty new. I'm still like kind of ramping up that part of the project. So if you do want to donate, you can absolutely reach out to me and we'll figure something out. But I can absolutely provide you a receipt for tax day, and we'll go from there.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for letting us know about that.
Sure, absolutely.
And I just want to take a second to remind everybody that we are recording a Gaming Memories episode later on this year. So please, please, please make sure to send us either your best or your worst gaming memories. You can DM us on Instagram or Twitter. You can email us at regionfreegamers@gmail.com. Or if you're feeling extra frisky, you can join our Discord server and DM us through there as well. But just make sure that you get them to us as quickly as possible before we end up recording this episode, because you're not going to want to be left out of this one. So anyways, back to Earthbound. And I'm very fucking excited. I'm extremely excited. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while, ever since I first talked to Stephan on the podcast, and I started, I'd been following him for a little bit, so I knew he was a big Earthbound fan. I knew I had to get him on for this one, and he graciously agreed to be on the show. He didn't learn his lesson the first time, and he was like, nope. Sure, I'll subject myself to this again. But, we got to get it. We got to do it. I've personally finished Earthbound this year. Paul's finished Earthbound, like 2 days ago.
Yep.
and Stephan and Kelly actually did the right thing. They were cool, and they played Earthbound around the time it came out, I'm assuming. So they've known how good it is for much longer.
Was I supposed to have played Earthbound?
Oh, fuck. Well, if you start it now, we could probably you could probably finish it by the time we're done with the
awkward
podcast.
Conversation coming up.
Special guest, Stephan Reese, everybody.
Hey.
God damn it. God.
No, this year I played. I usually start the game every couple years, maybe even once a year. Then it just doesn't get all the way there. I usually drop out at some point when it gets hard, because the game gets hard. The difficulty ramps are pretty spiky. Yeah. And so at some point I just go, I don't have time for this. I know how this ends. It's fine.
It's funny because this is like I've definitely seen more than one person who is like, I played Earthbound, I really like it. It's a game I play like every X amount of time, every year, every couple years, every like Halloween or something like that. Like, it's a game that people come back to multiple times. And we'll get it. I'm sure as we get into it, we'll talk more about that. I think where I want to start with this episode, and I'm just going to get into it because fuck, man, I already know this is not going to be a short episode, Paul. So I apologize in advance for all the editing you're going to have to do. But thankfully, I've only instructed you to insert like 7 different sound effects while I'm talking.
So 0 sound effects really is
the usual, as they say.
Yeah.
But where I wanted to start is this is going to be an Earthbound focused episode, but I want to like sort of touch on the series as a whole, because it's not particularly long, unfortunately. And I think the most important place to start for us is with the creator himself, Shigesato Itoi. You really can't talk about Earthbound or any game in this series without talking about Itoi. It's kind of the same feeling I get when you talk about like Metal Gear Solid. You can't do that without mentioning Hideo Kojima in some way. You can't talk about Mario without really talking about, Miyamoto-san.
You were just about to, though.
I know. Fuck.
You're gonna try.
But, it's this series, and I sort of thought when people would talk about this series, I sort of thought they were kind of full of shit, because a lot of people were like, this is such a cool game. Like, it's very weird. It's like nothing you've ever played before. It's like very tied into like the creator's like mindset. And I'm like, I've heard this before. Like, I've done this dance with people before where they're like, oh yeah, it's just fucking look how great this game is. And I play it and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. Like, I didn't play it when I was 7, so it doesn't hit like that for me. But this one hit different. This one, you can tell from even from like the beginning of the game, like I would say like a couple hours in, you can tell that you're in for something special.
Agree.
And you can absolutely tell that like this is Itoi's brainchild. Like, it's not a game that somebody would make if they weren't incredibly invested in what the game is. Story-wise, character-wise, everything about it is sort of just a little bit off. And it's not something that I think if you weren't personally invested in and sort of didn't come straight from your brain, you wouldn't just stumble upon this. Like, this is not something you sort of copy and paste from somebody else. And Itoi has talked about this extensively. Earthbound is sort of a game that he really poured a lot of himself into, and several aspects of it come directly from some of his personal experiences. The most famous one, and I'm glad that Paul actually finished the game so I can talk about this without feeling like an asshole, is the final boss fight with Gigas, or Gygas, or I don't know, what's the correct pronunciation on that? Anybody got a dictionary on hand? I'm gonna go with
the dictionary.
I'm gonna go.
That wouldn't help.
I've been saying Gygas.
I'm just looking out. Like, can you use it in a sentence, please? Country of origin.
It's not HR Gigas. So
all right. So it's Gygas. We'll go with Gygas. Which Itoi has claimed that this boss fight sort of comes from a childhood memory of his when he walked into the wrong movie theater, and he ended up seeing a sort of, as he describes it, kind of a violent sex scene from this 1957 horror movie called The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty. And not that we're going to get super into the final boss fight right now, but I kind of see what he's talking about. Because if you've seen the fight, like the visual aspect of it, I could see how that is somebody's, like, a child's idea of what a horror movie looks like. You know, like in a dark theater where you can't really see what's going on, you sort of walk in and your mind sort of interprets what it's seeing for the first time, right? Like, Paul, does this like sort of resonate with you at all when you played it?
I didn't necessarily think of... I was too focused on just beating Gygas and figuring out how to beat him, back when I was playing it. Like I played it 2 years ago. Literally 48 hours ago I finished this game. But when you're describing it that way, it makes perfect sense, right? Like, when it is kind of like this tumultuous image, this entire fight and the many forms that it takes. Yeah, and I can see how that would kind of correspond with a child's abstract thought of what horror is. Yeah.
And I guess I want to ask you, Stephan, just to kick things off here for you. I'm assuming you played Earthbound when you were much younger than what I am right now. I played it as a 29-year-old man. When you first played this and you got to this fight and you had this fight, do you remember like if you had any particular reaction to like what this is? I mean, this isn't even by JRPG standards. This isn't what I would call like a typical boss fight or boss design.
I mean, I immediately saw the fetus. I'm just gonna put that out there. People, there's some debate. Like, whatever, yes. It's a fetus. I don't even. No, I actually have that boss fight tattooed on my leg. I loved that boss fight. I loved how it took the narrative piece and like wove it into gameplay. Like I, to the point where I didn't understand, like the whole, like when I figured out that like you had to start praying, spoiler alert, had to start praying to this thing or praying to your friends to progress the fight. I mean, that blew me away. Like, that's what I will always remember about that boss fight and be like super sentimental about is I think it's one of the earliest examples and best examples, at least in my gaming experience, where they really like the narrative piece was like an intrinsic part of the gameplay, part of the experience. You know, well before you know, God of War came along and made you know cinematic cutscenes like that like commonplace.
Yeah. It really is. It struck me even today, like playing it even in 2021, how it really does like it sort of takes the cinematic aspect of it and translates it as best it can into like a 16-bit experience, you know. Kelly, what about you? What was your sort of like first impression when you saw that?
Well, I was still young when I played it as well, of course. So I just remember the ending, and even certain other parts of the game just kind of freaked me out. And it was like, this is kind of like when you first get Pooh in your party, that part too, which you might get into later. It's just like, what the hell is this game? What's going on? And that final boss fight, it was just like, one, I hate grinding, so I got there under-leveled, I'm sure. So I was dying to that boss over and over and over and over again. And it was just like a horror movie at that point. Yeah. So, the aesthetic, they did it really well. If that's what they were going for, they nailed it perfectly for young me, at least. I was freaked out playing the end of that game. Yeah,
it was, I mean, it's an experience unlike anything I'd seen, at least on the Super Nintendo, for sure. And we'll get, like I said, we'll get more into it.
One thing I wanted to mention before we move on is you had sort of like talked about how this game really like shows how much of himself Itoy like poured into this. Something else that I think, and I mean this in the most favorable way that you could possibly interpret it, I don't think this game could have been made by someone who knew what they were doing.
No. 100%.
Before the genesis of the Mother series, you know, Itoy didn't have any experience in the game industry. Correct. Keep me honest here.
No.
But like, there's just like, I don't know, like, I mean, they talk about things like beginner's luck, and so it's similar to that vein, right? Like, we were provided experiences with this game that like no one who a professional, right, would never have gotten there, right? Would have never, you know, and like that experience with the Gygas encounter, and like the experience that Kelly just talked about, you know, the introduction to Pooh, like no one would ever have thought to do that, you know, turning a dude into a dungeon. No one would ever have thought to do that, right? And so that's what I find super charming about this game, and it really shows you like what like pure inspiration can turn into, right? Like without having to have the experience behind it.
Yeah, there's a beauty, and I think this can be true for pretty much any medium. There's a beauty to somebody who doesn't know exactly what they're doing, because they're not inhibited by all the rules that everybody else has sort of developed through years of experience and whatnot. Like, anybody else, like you said, who knew even almost anything about developing video games might have looked at some of these ideas and been like, no.
Yeah.
you know, like, fuck no. We can't do this. People won't get it. It won't sell. You know, there's tons of concerns for people who are, you know, sort of in an industry and sort of think that they've evolved past that first stage of like learning how to do things.
Yeah, when you don't know why something won't work, you will come up with things that are just completely like outside the box.
Yep. Great example too of just creative people succeeding because they're talented and creative people. You know what I mean? Like, and this doesn't work every time, right? There are people who kind of paint outside their canvas and it doesn't hit, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine, you know, give it a shot and so on. But man, oh man, do I just love seeing talented people tackle different things and bring something new to the table. It's such a pleasure. And with Itoy, you could totally see just how different this game was and the kind of sensibilities that he brought to it. I think it's brilliant that like the guy who worked at he's an advertising agent before that, right? Now, to be fair, a very prominent and talented one in Japan at the time, but video games? Nah, man, this guy wasn't anywhere near that stuff, and yet talent.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and to your point, that's the other sort of aspect of the secret recipe for Itoy that I think works, is that unlike a lot of the other big creators that we talk about in the video game space, he came to video games at a very late age comparatively. Like,
wasn't he like
you
40
hear
or
all
something?
these stories. He was mid-30s to about 40. Yeah. You hear about all these other developers start off when they're like 15, 16, in their like late teens, early 20s. That's a very different mindset to have going into a video game than when you're 35 plus, right? Like, your mentality is completely, it's not even in the same realm. And so I think that also helps with a lot of the thematic stuff you see in the story and a lot of like the weird sort of, it's hard to pick just one part of it. But the enemies, the levels, the worlds, the weird dungeons, like all that stuff, you can tell comes from not only an inexperienced mind, but also a older, more, I hesitate to say wizened mind, but definitely like somebody who's been around the block a few times and had some experiences, and somebody who's not afraid to sort of tackle a lot of subjects that may be uncomfortable for other creators. And on top of all that, somebody who respects the medium enough to not dumb down a lot of this stuff, even for what would considerably be a younger audience, like video games were a children's medium, quote unquote, back in when he was making video games.
Especially around the original Mother, like forgetting Earthbound / Mother 2, like NES era. Jeez, man, how many people over the age of 16 were playing NES games?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, that's like I talk to a lot of gameplay counselors in the work that I do, and a lot of those kids, like, they would, especially the local kids to Nintendo, because it was just a local call to call the counselors. The expensive part came when you were like across the country, because you had to pay for long distance at that point. But like they talk about these kids, the local kids who basically got to call them for free. A lot of them they wouldn't have a question about a game. They just wanted to talk to someone who spoke their language, because at that point they literally knew no adults that knew what a video game was, and so here they could like call someone, an adult who like knew how badass Mario 3 was. Can we just talk about that, right? But yeah, I mean, to your point, exactly. Like, there was just there was no like adult resource for these kids. Like,
they just needed to call Shigesato Itoi. He was that one guy that was like, fuck, Dragon Quest 2 is the shit. But like Paul said, Itoi initially worked as a writer in several fields, an essayist, a lyricist, a copyright. The man knew how to write. Like, that was his sort of bread and butter. But it wasn't until 89, when he's around 40 years old, when he finally is founding Ape Inc., which is the studio that develops Mother. According to Itoi, and I actually got this from it was an interview that somebody did with him that they made into a comic book, and I would highly recommend it. Maybe I'll send the link to Paul so we can put in the show notes. So basically, what he says is that he initially got into video games with Super Mario Brothers. Basically, that was his first sort of experience with the medium. He loved it, but initially, no interest in RPGs. Thought that they did not appeal to him in the slightest until he played Dragon Quest II. And then he was fucking hooked, which I think is the story of a lot of people, myself included. Like, I remember when I was much younger, I didn't really want to play RPGs, Like, I had sort of bounced off a couple of them, and then I played Legend of Dragoon, and it's boom, end of story. Like, you find that one that just sort of hits you at the right time, and you're fucking in for life. So it's so cool seeing somebody like go through that process, right, and sort of talk very openly about that. Once he did that, he decided, I want to make my own game, as I'm sure a lot of people have done over the years. And he begins writing down ideas, just ideas. Eventually, he does a TV appearance in which he talks about how much he loves gaming, how gaming has helped him, how he really, has enjoyed all this stuff. And he fucking gets a call from the president of Nintendo at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, who wants him to consult on an upcoming game. It was called Miho Nakayama's Heartbeat High School.
Classic.
I've never played this. Never played this. No idea if it came out.
I played that today. I mean, that was...
Oh, the classic series. I think they're on their 17th entry now. But it's like, what the fuck, man? That's like me going on TV and being like, oh man, I love the NBA, and Kawhi being like, I want you like to join the Clippers tomorrow. You know, like that shit doesn't happen. So it must have been, I can only assume like he must have like fainted right as he picked up the phone. Which is what I would have done if like the president of Nintendo called me. If Doug Bowser called me today, I would like just have a heart attack and die probably.
I'd say they were closer to peers than.
I want you to know that it swung the other way, where he was just like, "Fuck yeah, I'm on my way." Just like he's like, "Yes, Mr. President." Click. Just like
there's just a giant red phone in his hotel room.
He's just like, "Finally."
I'm glad you finally recognized my genius, sir.
Exactly.
I would love to help you.
Game recognizes game. Click.
So, I mean, and actually, you're probably right on the money, because the next part of the story sort of corroborates that, where he goes to Nintendo and he finds Shigeru Miyamoto and he's like,
and he shakes him.
I've got your fucking next game right here, buddy. And so he starts pitching him all these ideas, and he's like, oh fuck dude, like I've got all these crazy ideas to make this game and whatnot. And fucking Miyamoto, I'm assuming, takes a drag off like several cigarettes and is just like, that's cool, like I'll call you maybe later.
Dude, Miyamoto like put out the
maybe.
cigarette on his arm.
He's not
Just
really
fucking-
that into you, guy.
Just fucking ices him, just ice cold. And Itoi talks about this. He literally says, he's like, I was riding back home on the train and I started crying. Like my dream was ended, because he thought like Miyamoto was like, fuck you, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
But eventually, Miyamoto sort of calls him. He had some reservations about Itoi being able to make a game if he wasn't working on it full time. So obviously Itoi played it cool and was like, I will drop everything if you let me make this game right now. And eventually they sort of come together and they make Mother. So,
And the word has it that it was actually Yamauchi who said to Miyamoto, like, what's wrong with you? Call this guy and greenlight whatever he wants. And Miyamoto, like,
Miyamoto shoved a whole pack of cigarettes in his mouth and lit them all at once.
But for, one time, Miyamoto kind of had to eat some crow there and contact Itoi and say, you know what? Maybe we should work on this.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if this wasn't successful? If like Yamauchi was like really put the screws to him to call the guy, and then and it didn't work out, and then he's just like, fucking, I told you. Can you imagine like how insufferable that man would be to work with for the rest of his life? Like, I've already heard some things, but man.
Yeah, in the history of Miyamoto's career, it's this and the time that they went on stage to demo Wii Music. Those have been the two most embarrassing moments in his career.
Wii Music, yeah.
So before we get to Mother, I just have one little factoid I wanted to throw in here because I thought it was hilarious. Yamauchi also loves Monopoly.
You mean
he
Itoi?
loves it so much that he is the president. I'm sorry, Itoi loves Monopoly. My bad. Yamauchi, I'm sure, also enjoys it.
I'm certain.
I will not be fact checked on that.
They probably play together.
Exactly. That's why he was like so into him. He was like, "Fuck, you gotta get this guy back in here. He's about to sell me Park Place. I gotta fucking close the deal, dude." Like, but Itoi loves Monopoly so much. He's the president of the Japanese Monopoly Association. And one time he competed in the 1992 Monopoly World Championship and placed 8th. And can I just say, I can't imagine what the fuck the Monopoly World Championship looks like. First of all, it has to be like a month-long event. Like, it has to last like 37 days. And I'm sort of imagining like a World Series of Poker setup where it's 4 guys at a table with like blacked out shades and like hoodies, all chain smoking and like.
Well, and I'm sure there's no house rules, which makes it instantly boring.
Yeah. It's just like 37 hours of some guy being like, please sell me Reading Railroad, like, for fuck's sake.
But also, like, I also need
it.
to know, like, how active the Japanese community is in Monopoly to understand how impressive this is. Because like if he's like, yeah, I'm the president of the Japanese fan club, and there's like 5 dudes sitting in a room playing Monopoly,
like 3 8-year-olds.
Yeah,
this is the thing though. There's always a quirk to any one of these Japanese developers. I remember we did a Super Mario World episode, and that's where I learned that one of Miyamoto's favorite hobbies is measuring shit. Like, he loves measuring furniture.
Right.
He carries like a tape measure around, and he like measures furniture. And I'm like, there's some part of your brain.
That's not a hobby. That's a quirk. You can't call that a hobby.
Yeah,
you call that a hobby, and you're weirdo.
Like, there has to be some psycho part of your brain that just like works completely different for you to be like successful creatively. I don't know what mine is yet. I'm sure I'll find it eventually. It's not buying a Switch. That's why it is. It's not buying a Switch. That's my quirk.
Then what happens?
So let's get into Mother real quick, because I just want to give a quick
Does that tie into the Earthbound ruler? Is that why there's an Earthbound ruler? Because it just
maybe that was the one. Maybe that was the one Miyamoto approved Earthbound swag.
I know, right?
All right, so we're gonna cut to a quick break, and then we're gonna come back. We're gonna talk about Mother, and we're gonna hit on Earthbound. So we'll see you guys on the other side of that. And we're back talking Mother. We've sort of put Mr. Itoi in his proper place. We've talked about him and all his peculiarities. Now let's actually talk about the product that he developed. So Mother, aka Earthbound Beginnings, depending on where you're from, developed by Ape and published by Nintendo for the Famicom or Family Computer in 1989, exclusive to Japan. I hate those words. I hate those words.
Those words were everywhere back then.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I hate those words, and I love never made it to PAL territory.
Why? What is this habit you've developed recently?
Who hurt you?
Disparaging our European listeners. What is going on here?
All I want is those chunky Dreamcast boxes. That's all I want.
Yeah. Those they certainly they beat us there. That's for sure.
Yeah. Some people don't like them. Some people like the like jewel cases.
Some people are idiots, man. Like, that's cool.
Fair enough. So obviously turn-based RPG. Very clearly, I think, sets the framework for a lot of what we see in Earthbound, Mother 2, some recurring characters. The main character, Ninten, who is not Ness. Do not think that he is Ness. He's not Ness. He is his own special little boy. His name is Ninten. They dress the same, and they look the same, but they're not the same. This is very important.
Separated at birth.
They have separate fandom wiki articles.
Do we know why? Why bother to do that?
And I gotta say, I wasn't even going to talk about this because I was like, I can't go down this rabbit hole any further. But
sure.
On the fandom article, there's a section where it says that Ninten has the most verified relatives in any Mother game. And apparently Gigas is somehow his great uncle in some like version of this.
Okay.
I will share this with you. I did not inquire any further, but I was like, wow, man, that's an interesting take on that. Would love to be invited to that Thanksgiving. That must be great. Going around saying what we're thankful for. Just
Grandpa Gigas in the corner going, kill me!
Yeah, just a fucking great void of darkness and hate, just like absorbing everything. It sold 400,000 copies in Japan and was extremely well received. It did receive some criticism for the difficulty and some of the balancing issues. As far as I know, like, the encounter rate in that game is fucking bananas.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgustingly too much.
Yeah, when they finally brought it over, they did fix it. That's
But that was like, I think outside of that, people were like, oh shit, this is actually like really cool. Like I like the way, like, you know, what they made, people were like really into. And I mean, 400,000 copies, especially for back then, especially for just a Japan exclusive release, nothing to sneeze at, right? Like, I don't know what other games were doing, but this seems like a decent outing for your first time. Obviously, Itoi was probably like doing like a touchdown dance in front of Miyamoto and being like, I fucking told you. You know, originally the game was planned to have a US release as Earthbound, but it was ultimately canceled. They did eventually, as we know, make a fully translated version of it. Well, no, I'm sorry. There was apparently a fully translated prototype that was found and circulated online as Earthbound 0.
Yeah, there's been a couple of them at this point now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same ROM, but it's
different translations. Or, yeah. And so, you know, eventually there was also a re-release of Mother 1 for the Game Boy Advance, Mother 1 Plus 2. Guess what? Japan exclusive. You know, this one came out in 2003, so they had no fucking excuse for this one. Like, Earthbound had been out for years. There was definitely a cult following. They were like, you know, people like it.
That wine didn't have enough time to mature yet, though. Like,
fair enough.
It took just a little bit longer for that. We needed the internet, really, is what it comes down to. Is we needed the internet to gather a critical mass of people to collectively grab Nintendo by the throat and Earthbound me, you know, like we still weren't quite there yet in the Game Boy Advance era, I don't think.
Well, we're still not quite there yet.
Honestly,
they're still trolling us.
I was so upset that Reggie didn't do it. He could have done it on his way out, like a presidential pardon at the last minute. Just been like, Mother 3's coming out.
That's not how this works.
Boom. Yeah.
You can't just will games into reality.
No, with that
your way out the door.
You just announce
he's like walking up. By the way, Mother 3, peace.
Yeah, exactly. He's like at his like going away conference. He's like, I just want to say, Mother 3 dropping next year, and they have to do it. They have to do it. What are they going to do? They're going to come out there and be like, he lied to you. We're not doing it. They would crumble.
Yeah.
Yes, that would bring them down.
The stock plummets. Nintendo goes bankrupt.
All over Mother.
No. Incorrect. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah. But eventually, in the year of our Lord, 2015, the last good year, Mother was finally released outside of Japan as Earthbound Beginnings on the Wii U Virtual Console. They were so close. They're so fucking close, man. Like, put it on anything else, for fuck's sake. But the Wii U Virtual Console.
Dude, system seller.
It's like, oh shit, man. This console's doing numbers. You know what we should do? We should release Earthbound Beginnings on it.
And we wonder why we don't have Mother 3 yet. They probably saw the sales and
they would have put that shit on the Virtual Boy at this rate. They were trolling really hard with that one. But at least we got it. Like, we can say we got it.
Yes.
And you can if you try hard enough, you can get it, you can play it. So we got to be thankful about that. Now, I know nobody here has played Earthbound Beginnings. I've seen a little bit of footage on it. Paul, I don't know. Did you watch any footage on it, or do you know anything about it?
Oh, dude, I was really too busy playing Earthbound.
Yeah. Well, let me save you some trouble. You know, if they fix the I think the videos I watched were without the balancing issues being corrected.
Like every 3 steps you get a random encounter.
Yeah. If they fix that, you're good to go. Otherwise, do not do it. You will be very upset.
I heard some of the dungeons were really maze-like as well, so you could just wander forever. They look too similar, so
yeah.
You just wander forever trying to figure out where to go. Because...
Oh God, what does it say about me that I find that appealing? There's something wrong here.
You are the guy who loved playing the Phantasy Star dungeons without a map. So,
yeah.
Like,
I think
there is something.
Yeah, that might have something.
There's
to
something
do with
innately wrong with you. That being
anybody who's got a going out toque.
Yeah. That being said, like, I think that this was just sort of a trial run for Itoi. I think he got his feet wet with this. he sort of actually had to sit down and be like, okay, what does it actually take to make a game? And this will come back later on in the episode a lot. And it's not easy, as he will soon find out over and over again.
Yep.
But this is sort of, more than anything, I think this is where, if you want to know like where Earthbound came from, go here and see all the ideas like being tested out and sort of, do the raw sort of unpolished version, and then go play Earthbound and really see them smooth out a lot of those edges and really refine a lot of the concepts. So in that sense, if you want to play it, go play it. If you love Earthbound and you want some more of that, have at it. You don't need to finish it. But I think it's worth, just from a historical perspective, I think it's worth going back and taking a look at it. Stephan, I don't know if you know much about, Earthbound Zero or any of those prototypes, or if you've had a chance to play them at all. What's your perspective on it as far as, as a fan of Earthbound? Does Earthbound Zero, Earthbound Beginnings resonate with you at all? Is it a game that you ever had a chance to play that you're interested in playing?
Yeah, well, I played because when that ROM was first discovered, they eventually dumped it. So I played the ROM.
Yeah.
But just like most every other ROM that I play for an NES game, it's like it's a curiosity more than anything else.
Yeah.
So I mean, to your point, like if it's something like if you wanted to, I feel similarly about like Doctor Who, for instance. Like you watch the modern stuff, and if you're curious to learn more, sure, you can go back and watch the older stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily recommend starting with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually a perfect allegory for how I feel about Earthbound Zero. But yeah. So I mean, yes, if you are a diehard fan and you really want to know more about the lore, or just like again see where the roots of the series are coming from, then yeah, play it. But it's also okay to not play it.
Yeah. And I mean, this is also my philosophy on listening to podcasts. Listen to the newer episodes first. If you are a sicko who goes to the first episode of a podcast that has like 300 episodes, stop doing that immediately. They all sound like they're talking through like a toilet paper roll in like a wind tunnel exclusively.
And they think they sound great.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. Even if somebody started a podcast in like 2020, they still sound like garbage for like the first 15 episodes of their run.
I don't know, Stephan. I'm pretty sure after our first episode, we were like, ooh.
Yeah, our podcast has some lost episodes.
But now the appetizer's out of the way, getting hungry for the main course.
Definitely.
So here it is. Earthbound, baby. We made it.
Woo!
And I want to start where every good game story should start. It's $2 million ad campaign. Wow. Just wow. There's these moments I have because I'm playing a lot of this stuff now where I'm like, fuck, man, how did this not become like a phenomenon? Like how did this not grab like an entire generation of people? And then I do like the most cursory amount of research and I'm just like, oh, now I know exactly how that happened.
Yeah.
Because they made scratch and sniff ads that smelled like vomit.
Yeah.
More than that, though, they literally, like, the ad opens with, this game stinks.
Yes.
They, like, literally tell you that the game isn't good.
It's true.
And they're relying on kids to detect the nuance. And it's not.
Yep.
So literally, Paul, I found a site that's just like all of the entire ad campaign for Earthbound. It has like clips of like almost every print ad they did for this thing. Every single one talks about how stinky the game is, how much it stinks, how gross it is, how disgusting it is. One of the ones I have here is a $10 off coupon that literally says, cut the coupon, not the cheese.
Hey, I used that coupon. They spent
$2 million making these ads Fuck, man.
Meanwhile, in Japan, you've got, boy band member Kimura Takuya on their ad.
Fuck. When you showed me this, I just about fell out of my chair.
I thought you'd enjoy that. The actor who plays the main character in Judgment did Earthbound ads in Japan.
Very
Mother
sexily promoting Mother 2.
Yeah.
His smoldering eyes were what really got me.
Oh, dude, I was melting right there. I could barely send you the picture.
But, just to get a little bit into the bigger picture of Earthbound. So developed by Ape and HAL Laboratory, this will become very important in a bit, and published by Nintendo for the Super Famicom and Super Nintendos, released in Japan in August 94, released in North America June 1995. The game was directed by Toei and produced by, I believe, first time making it onto the podcast, Satoru Iwata.
Hey!
Yeah, I don't believe we've talked about Iwata a lot on the podcast.
You might be right. It feels like we should have by now, but I think you might be right.
We may have mentioned him occasionally, but it doesn't come to my mind like some of the other luminaries, like Tommy Tallarico that we've mentioned on this podcast.
Also, let's be clear, Iwata did not produce this game. He salvaged it.
Yeah, that is true.
He pulled it from the jaws of death.
That is true.
Single-handedly.
Yeah. That is actually factually correct. It kind of
correct.
Kind of is a jip that they just credited him as producer on this.
Savior.
I mean, he is a producer in the sense that he produced a working version of this game.
Exactly. Yes, he did.
He birthed it from his being.
Exactly.
Let me just go around here, and I'm going to start with you, Kelly, this time. Tell me about when you first played Earthbound and what that experience was of like sort of going out, buying it, popping it in, playing it for the first time. What were you thinking at the time?
Well, it was weird because I was young, didn't have a job, of course. I had to rely on, like, my allowance was like $5 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Nice.
So saving up for these games just took forever. So,
and Earthbound was like $80.
$69.99.
She did cut the coupon though. She cut the coupon.
I
saved herself
did
a
get
month.
the $10 off. Yeah.
Saved yourself a month.
But when you looked at the ad campaign for this game, it was just terrible. I mean, here I am, this young girl, and I see this stinks, it sucks. Well, it doesn't say suck at the time, but it just, and all these like gross monsters made out of clay and everything else on this ad campaign.
Yep.
And then I had Nintendo Power, so I knew about the game, of course. But I had another magazine too that I don't even remember the name of at this point. It's been so long ago, but I remember they gave the game like a 66 out of 100.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I was just thinking, do I really want to go out and get this game with my, however many months of allowance that I have saved up?
Yeah. It really ripped a hole in your soul when you bought a game and it just wasn't good.
Oh, dude.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if you were like a birthday Christmas kid, like almost all of us were, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, shit, I'm not going to get another game for a year.
Yes. Yeah.
Fuck you, Altered Beast.
Yeah. That's what happened, is that then enters the moment where you're like, no, this game is good. And I'm going to tell everybody that it is good until I die.
Yeah. And I'm going to play it till I beat it until,
exactly.
Yeah. But I remember the coupon came in and I was like, okay, I'd get $10 off. That would be okay. And then you see the box and it came with a full strategy guide, which back then was pretty much unheard of.
It's really cool.
Yeah,
insane.
It's a big box and everything else. I was like, okay, we'll give this game a shot then.
Yeah.
We'll trust Nintendo Power instead of this other magazine, and we'll try it out. And of course, since it was the only new game I had for 6-8 months, I had plenty of time to play through it multiple times, and it was just so original and so different. At that point, I had played a couple of Final Fantasy games. Really, that was all my RPG experience at that point in time. I didn't get into other RPGs till later. So just having a modern day RPG where you're playing as a kid and you're going around a mall and you're hitting things with a bat and a yo-yo and all these other things, it was just amazing. And then I just remember the first time your dad called you to say, hey, you've been playing too long, you want to quit right now. And I was like, holy shit, dude. It's like my dad who does the same thing. Yeah, it was a real experience, and I played through it, I want to say 2-3 times in a row, because again, you can only have so many games when you're that young. So
Yeah.
But it was well worth the money. It's just
I mean, at this point, you're making money on that investment.
Well,
oh yeah, well yeah.
What about you, Stephan? What was that experience like? Sort of playing Earthbound for the first time.
You know, I bought it at Blockbuster, and because my Blockbuster also sold new games. I don't know if they all did or not, but mine did. And I remember how much, because it was always a fight trying to convince an adult of the value. So be like, but it has a strategy guide, trying to get my mom to understand that $80 was not bad because it's got a strategy guide in it, right?
Yep. You wanted me to read, Mom.
Or how long this is going to take me, that kind of thing. This is an investment of time.
Yep.
So it was a very similar conversation with Chrono Trigger. But that's another podcast. But yeah, so I got it home, and honestly, I started it and this game looks like shit.
Yeah.
Elephant in the room. I'm sorry. I understand. Today, as an adult, it's very charming.
Yep.
As a kid, I didn't understand why this game looked like a Nintendo game, like an NES game. And so it wasn't until honestly it was the spell casting and the particle effects and that kind of stuff that was okay, no, I can look. I had to squint, right? I had to squint to look past the graphic fidelity. And from then I loved it. I played it page turn by page turn with the strategy guide. Definitely got my money's worth as far as time investment, because I just did every single thing. Because and that guide was also very, and now you do this, and now you do this, and now you do this, and so you definitely did I found all of the things and all of the side things and all just all the little because the guide would tell you to. Yeah. So I definitely played by the book, no pun intended. But I by the end I loved it, but yeah, it took me a little bit to kind of be able to get past the art style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It really is that sort of thing, especially in '95, coming out towards what I would consider towards the end of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo. You're seeing games like you said, Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, Soul
Donkey
Blazer,
Kong Country.
Donkey Kong
that's
Country.
What it was going up against. The magazine that fucking ad is in is Donkey Kong Country. And so yeah. So coming off the heels of that, I was going from oh my god, this is the pinnacle of the system, right? They're really pushing the limits, and then I play Earthbound, and I'm oh, I guess this is all right.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. You look back on it now, and there is a charm to that particular art style. It looks very childish. It kind of looks, to me, it kind of looked like coloring book-esque. And so it sort of fit with that theme of being a kid, discovering all this stuff, exploring and whatnot. But I can't, if I had played it when I was, when it originally came out, I probably would have had the same reaction.
Honestly, I think part of it too was I had the first, I had a bad taste in my mouth for RPGs up until Earthbound. It was basically the late Super Nintendo, because I tried Final Fantasy 1 for the NES, and the first time I played that, I got that for my birthday at launch for the title launch. Yeah. And I was just a little too young, right? I couldn't wrap my head around how a JRPG worked.
Yeah.
And so that was a little bit traumatizing, because it was just, because again, it was one of those well, this was my Christmas present from Grandpa, and now it's a game that I hate. So there was that. And then the next RPG that I tried to play was Draken for the Super Nintendo, and
God.
That is, for the uninitiated, that is a European PC RPG that was ported over to SNES, and it is that game hates you, and it's incredibly confusing.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I was not in it, right? So then when I fired up Earthbound, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to hate this. And I didn't, So it Earthbound probably single-handedly saved the RPG genre for me. And then I played other Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time.
Yep.
Illusion of Gaia, great action RPG. Like, so I'm super happy that I saw the light. But yeah, coming into Earthbound, I was not necessarily thinking that it was going to be something that I was going to latch onto, as when I first started to play it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I want to get Paul's perspective, because he's played it in the year of our Lord 2021.
Yeah.
What is it like coming to Earthbound, coming to the light that this late on?
It's very interesting, because you hear about this game and you hear about how it's a classic and we all should play it and it's very different.
Wait, sorry, just for my context, This is the first time that you're playing it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
And it gave me a great reason to fire up that SNES Classic that I bought, hooked up, played once, and then never touched again.
Yep.
But yeah, it's this weird thing where it's like, okay, I'm about to play a classic, right? And much like Stephan, I started it up and I'm like, this game's ugly. Like these graphics are not impressive. What is going on? And then I hear the music and I'm like, this is trash. Why?
What am I doing with my life?
Like, why am I hearing this? Like that stupid fight music with the bass. Like, and I'm picturing like some beatnik with his giant bass in a club playing, and like, I'm like, what is going on here, right?
Getting progressively drunker as the song goes on.
But I mean, I suffer for the pod. I kept pushing through. And to be honest with you, though, I mean, it wasn't really suffering. Like at this point, we've seen so many different. Look, if I'd played this in '95, much like Stephan, I would have looked at it and been like, ugh. But playing it now, it's like, okay, I can see although it's not like graphically impressive in the traditional sense of that era with giant sprites and beautiful artwork and such. The sprites are still very evocative, filled with personality, like Pokey's mom with the giant mouth. Oh my god, that kills me every time. I love that sprite. And they accomplished so much with so little in that regard. And, so I played through it, and when it really got me, when I really realized, okay, this game's actually special, is when Ness and Paula get captured, and then Paula reaches out to Jeff, and then an entirely different chapter of the game starts where you're controlling Jeff. And then once Jeff gets on Tessie, the lake monster, and rides Tessie across the water, I was like, oh my god, this game is so cool. And if I had played this when I was a kid, and that specific sequence with Jeff on Tessie, I would have if I had played this game back then, like, if I had been born a little bit later and this was my first RPG instead of Phantasy Star, like it was for me, Earthbound would be my favorite game of all time, bar none. It has that feel to it. It has that appeal. It has that magic. It's really, I think, kind of the ultimate example of a game that's greater than the sum of its parts. Even the fighting mechanics are, like they're not that great. The rolling HP
the rolling
meter
health bar
is really cool.
Great.
Yeah,
it's
I like that
awesome.
because it does add some urgency to like when you're going through the menu and selecting stuff. That's
if I
really
remember
cool.
correctly, that was based off of pachinko machines.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
That's great. But yeah, it's totally greater than the sum of its parts. That's my opinion. And I finished it. It was like a couple of weeks. I just powered right through it, and I enjoyed virtually every minute of it. Even the parts where I got stuck, like even those parts felt good, because it's like you should get stuck in an RPG once in a while. It shouldn't be easy. It should feel good when you manage to bust through that barrier, and it presented a couple of those too.
Yeah. For me, I mean, completely agree with everything you said, Paul. I played it in August, I think. So I played it a couple months ago. And, you know, I mean, I'd seen the gameplay before. I'd seen the game run before, so I wasn't too down on the graphics or anything. But it was the writing, man. The writing fucking got me immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I can tell you the exact moment when I was like, I'm gonna finish this game, was when the bee showed up. And then when it died... When it died, I was like, this is a game that I would have made.
That was actually kind of cool now that I think about it.
Yeah.
It was so unceremonious. Like, you just got squished and that's it.
And I was like, oh, fuck, I love this. And as far as the sprites go, you know, the overworld graphics, not that great. The enemy sprites I loved all the weird, wacky enemies that you got to fight. They're very, like you said, very expressive and very like unique.
The first time you get killed by a stop sign is very humbling.
Absolutely. The fight at the police station I thought was hilarious.
Yes.
Breaking out when the runaway 5, you have to bail them out not once but twice. I was like, fuck, this is so funny.
Yeah.
I love all the driving stuff. I don't know why. Their little
great.
driving montages are all amazing.
Oh, it's so good. And the first time I saw Starman, I was like, this would have melted my brain if I had played it back when I was a kid. Like, just such an imposing enemy, like such a scary thing that they've sort of been building to for a minute, and then when you finally fight them, they're like, oh, this thing like kicked the shit out of me. Like, I should not be fucking with him. Yeah, but that writing is just so solid all the way through, and it really, like, when you find out what Itoi does, it all makes sense immediately. It's like, oh, this guy's just been writing for 30 some years, and now he just gets to basically write the longest thing he's ever wrote, and it's great.
Yeah.
I specifically
he makes such like nonsensical things work.
Oh my god, you took the words right out of my mouth.
When you're talking about, Paul was talking about the scene with Jeff, and if you just kind of remove yourself from it and how cool it is, and just think, okay, so what actually happens? So this kid like is psychically contacted by this rando, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna break out of school, and I'm going to like fight some cavemen, and then I'm going to jump on the Loch Ness Monster and ride it across the river, where I'm going to get on a fucking spaceship built by my dad. And then I'm going to take that spaceship and I'm going to go crash through a cemetery to join these children.
And Stephan, let's not forget too, in order to get to the Loch Ness Monster, he's got to give a monkey some bubble gum. So the monkey can blow a bubble and float to the monster. It's so ridiculous. But like I swear to God, man, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, and then there's like that mini like monkey love story that plays out in front of your eyes too. And you're just like,
but it all makes sense in a very charming way that nonsense ordinarily shouldn't.
Yeah,
for sure.
And also Jeff's dad. Amazing single dad energy.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Like,
I model my parenting off of Jeff's dad. It's true.
Just incredible.
I'm building a spaceship for my daughter.
Exactly. Just incredible. But yeah, no, you guys have said everything else. Like, it works. Like, it just works. It shouldn't. And I think like I said, I think if somebody that wasn't Itoi and didn't have like this sort of vision pouring out of his skull, maybe this wouldn't have worked. Maybe it would have been a fucking mess.
Yeah.
But it's all the parts just sort of fit together and sort of come together. And it really pays off towards the end when things start getting like a lot darker, and sort of the way they make that transition is done incredibly well. And it doesn't feel sort of shoehorned in. It doesn't feel like something they sort of were like, oh shit, we've kind of wasted time like fighting cops and piles of vomit. I guess we got to put something poignant at the end here. It sort of works for it, and it's earned the entirety of that payoff at the end. So they nailed it as far as I'm concerned. But with that, we're going to take another short break. We're going to come back. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into Earthbound. We're not done with it yet, so stick around for that. All right, welcome back. Still talking Earthbound. Still here with Paul, Kelly, Stephan. Let's dig deep, guys. Let's really get into it. So, we talked about our first experiences. Now I want to give the audience a little taste of what the story is. Let me set the table a little bit here. So the game takes place in everybody's favorite year, the year 1990X. Best year.
Yeah.
Really good year.
Banner year.
My favorite year.
Wish
After...
I could go back.
Yeah, I really do. To any number on that X, I'll take.
That's sure. Yep.
And it takes place right after the events of Mother. So in the fictional country of Eagle Land, which I did not know that from just the game. I didn't realize that it was called Eagle Land. I kind of love that though.
I know, right? This is what America is.
It's somewhere in there though, right? Like on a map or something.
I think when you pull up the map, it might say that it's Eagle Land. I just never paid attention enough. So the player begins the game controlling a boy named Ness, who we all know and love. He's investigating a meteorite that crashed near his home, and he's accompanied by his good friend Pokey, who's trying to find his brother Picky. Gotta love the names in this, man. Like, just top tier. They find an alien force named Gygus, has enveloped the world in hatred, which has turned animals, humans, and objects into malicious creatures, and you will fight animals, humans, and as Stephan mentioned before, objects.
Yes.
Stop signs.
Taxis.
Taxis.
Yep.
Those taxis are vicious.
The taxis
in
are
Ringside.
The first time I fought a taxi, I was like, what is happening?
Oh my god. or like, fuck the trees, by the way. Can we just like get
those
the ones that
can
burst into flame after you kill them?
Oh.
That is not okay.
No,
that
is
probably,
so dirty.
I'm curious, Kelly, because you said you hate grinding, and I feel like that was the area of the game that I spent the most time grinding. Was like, I can't, because you have to walk around the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I can't get through this without fighting at least like 4 trees. So I have to like be over leveled.
Like going up to the waterfall?
Yeah.
Yeah, that place is awful. And like the aliens, the spaceships that give you colds, and like the mushrooms, and like there's
the mushrooms, like
that's just a point where just like the game goes from like just basically like all the skate punks and stuff, they're basically just raw damage. They just like do damage, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, status modifiers are a thing, and they give them to you all at once. Like the trees and the cold aliens and the mushrooms are all in the same area. Like,
for the uninitiated, the mushrooms reverse your directional controls.
No, they change them randomly.
They change them randomly.
It's even worse, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they change throughout. So it's not just like one change. It'll be like, oh, now left is up, and then all of a sudden left will be left again. And like that will somehow screw you up. Like the fact that like you have normal controls again will be like, wait, no.
It's guaranteed that at some point you'll be like, oh, I figured this out. And then the button you're pressing will launch you directly into another enemy.
Yes.
And you'll be like, fuck my life. Like, what is this hell?
And then is it also poisoning you?
I don't think it's poisoning
maybe.
you. There is a poison effect. But I don't think
something
the
is
mushroom is poisoning
like
you.
the cold. Is it the cold that's poisoning you?
The cold might
something
be doing
something in that area also poisons you.
It's definitely the cold.
Because you get the flash.
You get the flash on the screen every once in a while. It's when they make you cry is like...
That's what it is.
Because then the fights take 5 hours because you can't hit the broadside of a barn. It drives me nuts, man.
Or like homesickness. Oh my... You know what? There's so many status ailments in this game that just make me angry.
Kelly, did you have to grind to get through that, or...
I remember trying to run a lot, but I remember running wasn't that easy to do either.
No.
Do you want to hear the... Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And just trying to avoid everything. I just remember dying a lot. I can remember going from place to place, and I'd have, like, Ness alive, and the other 3 would be following me as angels, as I was just praying that I could get to that next.
Dragging behind you. Ness just dragging Paula's dead corpse behind him, like, we've got to get to the hospital.
Yep.
This game, I think, and I'm just going to talk about this now. This game, I think, is one of the best reward systems, like non-direct reward systems for grinding, in that when you start to outlevel an area, things will literally die by touching you. And And it's the most gratifying thing.
Yeah.
And like that sort of, so that was my method for grinding when, throughout the game, is I'd get to the point where like things would just die on me. And then I'm like, okay, now it's time to move to the next place.
That's exactly how I did it. And you can bet your ass that later on in the game, I came back to that area and I killed every fucking tree I saw.
Every ant,
I found a pretty dirty way of doing it though.
Oh,
which
really?
was, like if I saw an enemy, I think I fought 2, maybe 3 trees during the entire course of the game. Because what would happen, so the first time I fought the tree blows up at the end and it's super dirty and I was very upset.
Yep.
And so anytime I saw a tree, I would just backtrack until the tree was off the screen, wait like 5 seconds, and then go back. And if the tree was still there, I would just repeat it. And then eventually the tree wouldn't be there. And I could just go through. And it was a really lame and not courageous way of playing, cowardly even. But I only fought the trees twice.
Yep.
Nice.
I have 2 enduring memories of like Onett, and because this happens in Tucson, I think, or maybe it's Threed. I can't remember exactly. But I have 2 enduring memories of this. One is desperately trying to get in the door of the hospital when I mushroomed. And just missing, like, constantly. It's like, fuck, I just need to get in the door, for fuck's sake. And the other one is having a tree blow up and me just, like, mashing my controller as much as I could to end the battle so I didn't die.
Yeah. Oh, man.
God, it's, we're really selling people on this. They're gonna love this.
It's fun, though. Like, these...
Oh, yeah,
it is fun.
This difficulty, like, look... I mean, I've said this on the show before, but like, how many RPGs have you played really where a random battle just wipes you out, right?
Yeah.
And it happens in this game. It happens, and it's embarrassing, but it happens because like, they have status effects and they do stuff that's challenging, and that's a good thing, man.
But they also give you opportunities to sort of game the system, like you were saying. Like they knew what they were doing when they allowed enemies to despawn off screen, and or just the fact that something we haven't brought up. If you attack a world encounter from behind, you get first strike.
Yep.
And like that's a big deal, and you can super game that system of just like flipping around at the last second. You're like changing your orientation at the last second.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean it's hard, but like they give you, if you really invest the time to like learn how systems work in that game, they reward you for it.
There's also the thing I hated all the time was when I was like, okay, if I run into this enemy, is this other enemy close enough that they will run into my fight?
Yeah, it's the timing game.
90%
like,
of the time the answer
that
is
guy's just a little too far.
Yeah.
So pissed. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna fight a UFO. A tree just comes fucking beeline. Like I have never like faster than a fucking NFL wide receiver. Just like, wait for me.
Especially the trees, because they use the same sprite that the regular trees use. So like you would just be like, oh shit, that's a tree. As it comes flying
just
over.
fucking doing a sub 4 second on the 40-yard dash.
Randy
this
Moss.
tree is fucking Usain Bolt up in this bitch. This tree is killing me. But yeah, no, I mean all that stuff is incredible. And so, but coming back to the story real quick, so the main MacGuffin of the thing you are tasked as the hero of the story to collect is the 8 melodies, because you're given the sound stone, and so you have to collect the 8 melodies, and these melodies will come together in order to stop Gygas. This is the only way you can do it. And obviously everywhere you go, you'll be collecting these melodies, but you won't be alone. You'll be joined by 3 other courageous party member. 1, like that they kept the party small. 2, really like that I can use all my party members.
Yeah.
I don't like shuffling around and figuring out who I like. Just give me the people that I want. So these 3, and I'm going to ask you all a lightning round question after this. Paula, Jeff, Pooh, tell me who's your favorite. Paul, go.
Jeff. They're going to say murder.
Jeff. We'll do that afterwards.
Okay.
Stephan, go. Favorite. Don't think about it.
Pooh.
Kelly.
Gotta be my favorite.
It's gotta be Paula. Gotta go with the girl.
Gotta be Paula. Ooh,
Yeah.
we got a whole thing here.
What about you, Arnie?
I'm going to go with Ness. I actually love Ness the best.
He's a beast. He is a beast, though.
I know. I fucking love him. I think I love him because his weapon is, like, the most relatable to me. It's always, like... It's always
as Arnaldo
like
walks through town with his baseball bat, just beating
It goes
things.
from, like... He gets real serious. He goes from, like, oh, a yo-yo, to, like, oh, an aluminum bat.
Bam!
Like he's like part of that gang in The Warriors.
For me, it was Jeff with the slime generator. As soon as Jeff discovers the slime generator, it's GG for any single enemy. Because
Also,
Jeff
let me
just
tell you, bottle
locks them
rockets.
down.
Yeah, bottle rockets are
a
insane.
fucking
too,
thing,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then later on in the game, he gets like a bazooka or something.
I know the bazooka's really good too, but I'm telling you, man, that slime generator. Like, if you fight one Starman and you just tie them up every turn with the slime, it's hilarious. They're like, I can't attack you. I can't attack you. And I'm like, yeah, that's right, you can't.
Shout out to the unsung hero, the fifth member, the teddy bear.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, pour one out for the teddy bear. Yeah.
Always sacrificing for the good of the cause.
Yeah.
I don't know how many I lost on my way.
I know, and I legitimately felt bad. I was that kind of like stupid empathic kid that was just like, oh man, the teddy bear. I'm sorry, man.
Well, they tell you in like the most insane way. It's like the teddy bear has like disintegrated into fluff or something. I'm like, no!
Turn into fluff.
They're really painting a picture.
Oh God. And so you have your party, you have your quest. It's been set out before you. But what is a game like this? What is an RPG without a world, right? A sort of a visual theme to tie it all together. And this game has a lot of things in it that really paint a picture of Earthbound. Like that you can I could show you a screenshot from this game and there's no way you wouldn't guess what game it's from. Just randomly. You got the contemporary setting, which again, I love. I love that I'm going to the mall. I love that I'm healing by eating pizza and burgers. I love that Paula's getting a cast iron skillet to beat people over the head with.
So good.
Like all this, I'm here for it.
What I think is amazing too is that it's America.
Yep.
A picture of America painted by the Japanese.
Yep.
And so it's like, oh yeah, this is America, but it's also the most American fucking thing. Like everything is the most American version of itself that you could but the first boss is like a 50s greaser guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's just like everything is so, even just down to like Ness, wielding a baseball bat, the most like American thing you can think of.
Yeah.
It's not just America. It's super America.
It's America, motherfucker.
Yeah. It's America.
And it works here the same way it worked in Metal Wolf Chaos. Like turning that dial to 11 is never not gonna make me smile every single time.
It adds to the weirdness, right? Yeah. Like it's simultaneously familiar and strange in a way that is very delightful, really.
Yeah. We've already talked about some of the enemies. I mean, shit.
Literally.
The cops, the hippies, skate punks.
The hippies, dude. The first time I saw the hippie,
so good.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to beat up a hippie? Are you serious?
Yeah.
So good.
Or just like, you mentioned the cop fight. That's like one of the, like there are scenes to me that are just genuinely disconcerting.
Yeah.
Like, again, taking 1,000-foot view, this kid walks into a police station with a baseball bat and dismantles the entire department one by one.
Well, no, you gotta go back even further. When he talks to the cop who's like, come over here, and puts him in like a tiny room, closes the door,
a cage
and then
match.
has like 7 cops line up to fist fight him.
Yeah.
And then one cop says like, you should stay home and play Nintendo or something. Like insane. I mean, but Earthbound really, like, what I notice about the enemies is that they do a really good job of sort of working you to the crazier shit. Like, you start off, you're fighting crows, you're fighting dogs, you fight, trees and stuff, but relatively you're like, okay, this is all, like, stuff. And then you keep going, and it's like, oh, here's some...
So by the time
Klansmen.
you're, like, trapping zombies with flypaper,
yeah, exactly.
you're You're adjusted.
But that's exactly because it brings up the weirdness. It like boiling a frog, right? You just turn the heat up slowly, and you by the time you're like at the sentient vomit, you're like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
The giant cavemen. You're like, wow, I was wondering when these were going to show up. Like, really fits the theme of the world.
Yeah. The Blue Klansman, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
With a paintbrush.
Yes.
His attack is a paintbrush.
Yes.
What is this?
And isn't that like the bad guy basically Bob Ross too?
Yes.
Isn't that at the end?
Yes, he is. He just wants to make everything blue. That's all he wants.
Oh god.
I can sympathize. I like blue. Blue's a really cool color. It's not my favorite, but you know.
He
is blue.
I'd be fine with
the uniform's a bad choice. Though.
You would, Kelly?
Yeah.
You join that call?
Why not? Be in happy town, of course.
That's right. You're always happy when you're in happy town. Just billowing clouds of weed just coming out of every house in that town. And then some of the stuff we've already talked about. Rolling life meter. Why has nobody else ever done this?
Why has nobody done this?
Why has nobody done this?
It's very
I feel
clever.
I feel like that's so unique that you just can't do
Yeah.
it. Like, because people would just be like, you ripped off Earthbound, dick. You know? Like...
Yeah, well, and I guess the other thing is, like, because it's Earthbound, in any other game, it'd be like, yeah, this game was really cool, but they had some fucking weird rolling life meter for some reason. Like, I didn't get it. You know, but in Earthbound, it's like, oh, yes, my life is like a pachinko machine. Of course.
Yeah, no, it's great, man. That ability, like, when you take that giant amount of damage and you're like, I remember when that light bulb came on, because like I took this gigantic, disgusting amount of damage and I'm like, well, this game's bullshit, right? Like, I can't believe this rando just did 300 damage to me. And then it's like, wait, no, if I heal fast, I can stop it and then bring the life. It's really cool, man. It's really cool. Like, short of active time battle, it's a very nice way to get the player to just kind of like frantically scroll through menus quickly and
shit.
Exactly.
I fucked it up constantly. I would accidentally do like a different psi attack and be very pissed all the time.
Yes. That every once in a while that would happen. I'd lose my goddamn mind.
And then, well, see, for me, I like to plan out my attacks. So whenever that happened, I'm like, well, I guess everybody's just doing a standard melee attack because I don't have time to like pick everybody else's attack.
Yeah.
And you know, it does what it does is it keeps battles interesting and tense all the time. So it never gets to that point where you're just mashing the A button like, you know, okay, let's go. Because eventually some guy will smash you and then you'll be like, oh shit, like, you know, I gotta either end this fight now or I've gotta heal myself. But then they also solve that problem by, when you get too overleveled, making all the enemies run away from you and instantly dying, which is, as Stephan has already said, incredibly satisfying.
Yes. Yes.
So it balances the like difficulty spikes with mechanics that sort of work. And exploits that you can use. And so I guess I want to ask each of you guys, starting with you, Kelly, this time, what did you think about like the setting of the game and like a lot of the mechanics that we've talked about as far as the enemy designs go? And did you have like a favorite enemy?
Really, for favorite enemy to fight, not really. I love the Starmen, just how they look. Yeah. So
sure,
solid pick.
Just on the front cover and everything else, it definitely stands out. You know what you're getting into there. As for the world and everything else, I mean, I can just remember going into the mall the first time, and I was like, holy shit, I'm fighting in a mall. That was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, what about you, Paul?
There's, I mean, as far as the setting goes, it's great, right? Like, there's not, what else can we say that we haven't said already, right? Like, it's not your standard fantasy setting. They take a contemporary one and they make it work, and that's great. I mean, favorite enemy though? Oh man. There's a tie. There's like in what's the fourth town called? I'm blanking.
That's when they stopped doing numbers and I was like, why did you do this to me?
No, it's like Four Town or Fortin or something like that.
Fourside.
Fourside, that's what it is.
Fourside.
Right.
Thank you. I have a podcast, everyone. In Fourside, there's like a hysterical older woman that chases you throughout the parks and so on, and she like attacks you with her leg or something. I just thought that was hilarious. But honestly, like the most hilarious one was the pile of vomit, because he constantly makes a very well recorded burping sound. And that burping sound effect is legit. Like, that's Barney Gumble level burping sound effect.
Taking off like 40% of the cartridge space with that red letter
just
audio.
The burping sound effect.
Red book audio, sorry.
It killed me every time, man. That I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I want to find out that like Justin Roiland was just like a big fan of Earthbound, and that's why Rick burps all the time.
He's Vomit Rick.
Yeah.
What about you, Stephan? I know you've talked a bit about it with, it's Americana through the eyes of Japanese people turned up to 11.
Which is something that I appreciate now. I don't know that I really, like, people at the time, like, now going back reading reviews and stuff, I wasn't a big like review kid, honestly. Like, outside of Nintendo Power, I love that magazine, obviously, but so I didn't really like instantly like latch on to like how unique that was, because I think I just hadn't really played that many RPGs at that time, because then because like I said, Earthbound was sort of my genesis, and then I would go forward and play Chrono Trigger, which came out the following year, and like all these masterpieces. So I don't know that I really latched on to how important that was, or how groundbreaking it was that this was a contemporary setting. So I wasn't like wowed over it. Like, I thought it was cool, but only because it was well crafted. And then as far as favorite enemy, I'm gonna go with Master Belch as well, but not because he's not because he's gross or the game stinks, but that I like game mechanics or like battles where they set things up specifically to make you feel smart. Yeah. Right? Like, so when you give him the jelly and that basically like breaks the fight, right? Or you give him that, it is jelly, right? You give him an item.
Jelly or honey.
Yeah. Jar of honey. Yeah. It kind of breaks the fight to like basically make it easy mode. And I remember feeling so smart that I had figured that out. Right. And for the same thing with the Gygas fight at the end, right? That's a similar thing where it's like, oh, you figure out the prey thing and you're like, oh, like, I love it when game design makes me feel smart, even if it was, obviously what they intended me to do.
Yeah. I want to ask you about this before I forget, because I didn't realize it until you just mentioned it. I feel like most people got into RPGs around that time, Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, like high fantasy sort of mythical stuff like that, and then they came to Earthbound and were like, oh shit, this is a game that's completely different. You started with Earthbound, the like hilarious, modern, weird set one, and then went to like Chrono Trigger and like Final Fantasy. Was that a transit? Like, was it something where you were like, oh, this isn't like as fun or as quirky as Earthbound, or did you love it just the same, like being fantasy as you did with the stuff in Earthbound?
Yeah, because I had played fantasy games, fantasy setting games before, but just not necessarily RPGs.
Gotcha.
But yeah. I loved everything that I barely played except for fucking Draken.
You heard it here first, folks. The man loves Hydlide.
Yeah, a Dragon View was the sequel. But yeah, I generally found RPGs to be great after that. So,
yeah, I just can't imagine like popping in Final Fantasy 3 after that, being like, where are the fucking taxis? Like, what the fuck?
There's no Belch here? Fuck us.
Yeah, exactly. I have to fight like a knight who's well rendered, like who looks intimidating. Oh, this sucks. But yeah, and so cutting through all this, and we've talked about it at length at the top, so I don't think we have to dwell on it too much. But this final boss fight, I don't want to spoil anything about it. I just have to say, like, it has to be one of my top 5 favorite final bosses of all time. Like, just for the uniqueness of it, just for the atmosphere it creates. I was genuinely creeped out playing it. I remember I was playing, it was probably like 2 a.m. in the dark, in my game room, like just the light of the TV, watching all this shit happen. And I think I had to fight him like twice because I couldn't figure it out enough the first time. And even the second time I played it, I was like, this still hits. Like, this is still doing it for me. And it's one of those things where I was like, I don't think I've ever gone from the first boss you fight in the game to the last boss you fight in the game being so diametrically, like, so different. And like in tone, in scale, in like almost every single aspect, and being just as invested. Usually by the time I get to the end of an RPG, I'm like, I just want this to be over, man. Like, just
Often, yes.
I wanna get past you. I want to see the ending. I want to see the credits. I want to have a big hug with all my friends, and I want to go off into the sunset. And this one, I was like, this is great. Like, I want to see everything this has. And we won't even get into like the fact that the game like asks you some information about yourself and then later uses that stuff and how that all plays into it, which is another really incredible twist, because it worked on me. Like, it's something that it asks you randomly and you're like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? And then like several hours later it comes back and you've probably forgotten by that point that you ever did that. So when the game does it, you're like, how does it know?
Somebody said sex was their favorite thing.
Paul absolutely did.
I was way too young for that. Come on.
I think I left them all default my first time playing.
Yeah.
So you were rocking,
Sex
huh?
was definitely mad. But it was obviously like I was, again, as Kelly points out, very young. And so it was just like, sex.
No, the real question that tells you like what kind of person you are is what was your favorite food? Because you could put some people, I don't know what the hell is wrong with them. Like, if you put anything other than like hamburgers or pizza,
I put chicken wings.
The character limit really.
Yeah, you only got like 5
I had to put
characters.
wings because chicken wings were too long. So
wings is good.
Yeah.
I like that one. If you put like carrot or something, I
think I did use
well,
pizza.
I do think
Me
that
too.
my favorite thing was like books or something really.
Aww.
Nerd.
I can't handle your earnestness right now. No, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have anything to add to that or have any particular memories about the final boss fight. Like, Stephan, I know you've got it tattooed on your leg, so I'm assuming
I do.
Like, this like really clicked with you, or at least the visual aspect of it was like striking enough that you were like, shit, man.
Yeah, I actually used that as a sobriety tattoo. I'm 18 years sober,
wow.
Nice.
So I loved I wanted something to commemorate that, and then at the same time, I just loved like my journey through sobriety. I didn't go through AA or anything like that. It wasn't structured. It was basically me like leaning on my support group, leaning on my friends, and like I just loved the idea that in that boss fight, you are essentially praying to your friends to save your life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how that was my sobriety journey. So that's why it ended up tattooed on me. So I have an image of Gygus, and then underneath it says pray.
That's awesome.
And, but yeah, so that's honestly why that resonated with me so much, is that I loved the idea that of like, you know, leaning on the people who care about you. You know, as opposed to some, I don't know, mythical flying squid monster.
Yeah.
Again, juxtapose that to the ad campaign for this game. Like, come on, man.
Yeah. So I could have put this tattoo stinks.
Exactly.
And-
Exactly. You could have, eventually, when they make scratch and sniff tattoos, I know that it's
right.
going to be real popular.
No, thank you.
It's not even really it's not even the first time we've seen this. I hesitate to call it a trope because it does hit, you know, emotionally, and trope kind of reduces that. But it's not even the first time. It's just kind of the best time. Because, like, Final Fantasy IV was the same thing, right? Like, you fight against Zeramus, and he wipes out your party, and then everybody prays for Cecil, and then you continue the fight, right? Yeah. And that's really cool. This, in Earthbound, the way they do it, it's just dialed up even more. And, like, I found myself, like, once I figured out the whole prayer thing, which I did, it was kind of by fluke. I just didn't really have anything for Paula to do that turn. And I was like, well, might as well pray.
Yeah.
Poor Paula.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, I was just kind of like, like, whenever I go into a boss fight, I don't throw haymakers. I throw jabs. Yeah. You know, I kind of try to figure things out. And Paula had thrown her freeze magic, which is, like, best magic in the game.
Yep.
A few times, and I'm like, oh, this isn't really working, and so I'm like, all right, well, whatever, I'll just pray for this turn, see what happens. And then lo and behold, and as soon as that happened, the second time when it goes to Pooh's family, I'm like, I can't wait to see Ness's mom. I can't wait to see Ness's mom, because that's gonna be it, man. That's gonna be the death blow. Is Ness's mom getting in there and being like, "Come on, little buddy," and like, you know, giving her speed. It was awesome, man. Like, I'm fucking 42 years old, man. This shouldn't be happening, but I couldn't wait for Ness's mom.
The whole time you were explaining this, I'm like, hopefully he's like, I wanted to see Ness's mom because she's so hot.
Never once. Never once.
No,
Pokey's mom.
I was going to say, he told you up front. Pokey's mom is where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, it's weird that you're all talking about the final boss fight, where for me, one of the things that really resonated with the ending is when all the pictures came up. And as you remember, I would be running from town to town with people dead. So in half those pictures, everyone was dead except for Ness. So when I finished the game, I was like, okay, I have to replay this game just so I can have the pictures at the end with everyone alive.
Better pictures.
Yes.
There's your replayability.
Let me tell you something. That Fuzzy Pickles guy, that guy is a fucking menace. He needs to be stopped.
We should talk about him because he's like a big deal.
He is.
And
we should talk about him. The real final boss of the game.
That's right.
Fuzzy Pickles, man. So as you travel around the world at various points, you will be stopped for... Honestly, I thought the first time it happened, I thought the game had like frozen. I thought it glitched, and I was like, fuck,
oh, God.
What the shit? And then, of course, from the heavens, spiraling towards the earth, descends the Fuzzy Pickles man. I know he has a name, but I don't know it.
I don't think he does.
Doesn't he? Not even in the credits?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I don't remember. Yeah.
Anyway, he's like, I'm going to take your picture. He doesn't ask for your consent. He, like, announces this to you, and you have to accept it. And then he says his great catchphrase, Paul.
Say Fuzzy Pickles.
There you go. He takes about, I want to say conservatively, 10,000 pictures of you throughout this game.
Seems like it.
He never changes the thing he says. He's always telling you to say Fuzzy Pickles, which a
couple of times too, they're like really close to each other.
Yes.
Like you just got your picture taken,
yes.
and then like 10 minutes later,
I know.
like,
I was like, really already?
This man, somebody needs to stop him. He should not be going around taking pictures of children.
And those are actually, because I always thought they were random, but until I got this prototype, you can actually see the triggers for him in the game. They're a physical object. So when you get into a certain proximity to the trigger, he comes. So
shit.
Yeah.
I thought it was random. It's not random.
It's at Foresight. At Foresight, I figured it out because I walked between these two buildings, and the picture, it was just too photogenic. Like, it was too well composed. I'm like, this isn't random. Like, there's no way. This guy is way too good at his job. By the way, Arnie, this man is a saint. He is not a menace. taking pictures for free to commemorate your special journey. I can't believe you're spitting at him like this.
I'm just imagining Ness in the bathroom, and this guy just like knocks the door over, like, say Fuzzy Pickles, motherfucker. Like,
yeah.
Why are you imagining Ness in the bathroom, Arnie?
You know that
he's taking a turn.
You know in Onett where there's the courthouse, or the mayor's office or city hall or whatever it is,
yeah.
And there's a bathroom. You try to go in it, and somebody's always like, "Oh, it's occupied" or something. And I was always like, I wonder if like I'll ever get to meet, because some guy like runs past.
He runs in. What an
bathroom.
asshole, by the way.
And I was like, I wonder if he's ever gonna come out. And I tried going back, and he never does.
He never does. No. He just, every time you're about to go use the bathroom, he's like, out of the way, kid.
That man wrote out the end of the world on the toilet. Like, he never left. But yeah, Kelly, I need to get your opinion on this. Like, Fuzzy Pickles, man, like, yay or nay?
Yay.
Because I need to know I'm not crazy.
Yay.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you. A sensible
Stephan,
voice.
you're my only hope here. Are you pro Fuzzy Pickles, man?
I mean, I think it's a little weird that a fully grown man drops from space to take pictures of children.
This is what I'm saying.
They're children, Paul.
They're teenagers. If this was today, they would have Instagram accounts and be doing the same goddamn thing.
They're beating up people in authority everywhere.
The thing that bothers me about him the most is that no one else in the entire game mentions him once. Yep. He's just doing it to the kids.
He's an evil spirit that haunts your journey.
What is going on? I at least just once, I wanted some adult to just be like, what the fuck?
That is a good point. Damn it.
Like, he leaves, and then somebody comes up to you and it's like, are you okay?
Yeah, exactly. You just, like, spaced out there for a minute. What?
It's all, like, Ness's, like, delusion.
They're all, yeah, there's like...
Paula and Jeff
You
and
having
Pooh
a
are like,
seizure?
what are you doing? As he's, like, standing there, like...
Yeah, but there's still the
like frothing at
pictures.
the
The
mouth.
actual pictures. It's got to be somewhere.
Oh, God. I don't know. We'll let the audience decide
I don't trust him.
as they play
saying,
the game if they are pro Fuzzy Pickles Man. Hashtag Fuzzy Pickles Man yay or hashtag Fuzzy Pickles Man nay.
Yeah, we'll do an Instagram poll too.
And then the other side of this and the other like big development thing that people always talk about is the localization of Earthbound. And
There's literally a book written.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there is. Initially handled by Dan Osen before being passed on to Marcus Lindblom, who did most of the work on this. I want to say he did like the majority of the localization work.
Fun fact, Dan Osen, also the gentleman who voices The Last Metroid is in captivity.
Really?
The galaxy is at peace.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not know that.
Fun fact.
That's right. What is it? The more you know, and the little shooting.
Yeah,
star?
yeah.
Paul, add that sound effect, please.
I probably won't.
But yeah, so Lindblom basically he another great story is he basically says they gave him like free reign to put almost anything he wanted in this game. Like they were always like, and I get it because at this point they were probably just like, please just get this done.
I know,
Like,
right?
for the love of God, just like let us release this in North America. And he did say that it was pretty challenging to do the script. But once he was sort of given that freedom, he did a great job. He put several jokes and American cultural allusions. We talked a little bit, I think on the break, we mentioned that there's a part in the game where you have to erase a giant pencil statue and how that wasn't originally what was there in the Japanese release. But what was there was a more culturally significant, joke that probably would have gone over the heads of like non-Japanese players.
Exactly.
So they got to work around that a little bit, and I mean they did a really good job.
That has to have been like translating that game had to have been like machine. Like when you machine translate languages back and forth a bunch of times, and then what you get is fucking nonsense. Like because you're talking about like a game about America written in Japanese through the lens of Japanese writers, and then translating that back into actual English. That had to be
through the lens specifically of Shigesato Itoi, like not just any writer here. And then, he did that thing that I love when like writers and translators do, which is he named one of the NPCs after his daughter who had been born during development. Love shit like that. I think it's really cool. I think everybody should do that all the time. And then just to round it out before we close this section off, a lot of censoring, as was common for Nintendo games.
A lot of coffee
time.
in this game.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people hopped up on caffeine.
Oh, yeah.
No crosses on hospitals.
And my blurry genitals.
Yeah, that's right. No crosses on hospitals, no crosses on graves. Coffee was originally alcohol, which, fuck, man. Just the thought of Ness just walking in to buy like a thing of Steel Reserve, just like, all right, fucking, where's my Four Loko, please? I've had a rough day. I just went through dungeon, man.
I just got into a fight with a taxi.
These stop signs, man. Like I just need, I need something. But it's doubly funny because you've got that NPC sprite of the guy with the really red face. And he's clearly holding a beer and he's clearly drunk. And it's like, man, this coffee.
So when now I'm wondering when you
right
you fight coffees in this game. So were they originally just like bottles of booze that you fought?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Can't imagine. Nah, probably not because it's a different sprite.
Yeah. Right? Like there's no way they do that.
Yeah.
My favorite change though is Magicant. Because so for the listeners, Magicant is like a dream world, kind of like that aesthetic, and in it Ness just runs around in his pajamas. But in the original in the Japanese version, he is naked.
Yeah. Well, and he's naked. He's naked in a couple scenes here too, isn't he? But he's blurred out.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Blurry genital.
Yeah, but in the North American release, he is wearing his pajamas and no hat. They took away his hat, which I think they should have just given him like a nightcap or something, like one of those old school. Hats.
Yeah, that would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But he's wearing a cap in the whole game. It's nice to see his hair just like let loose.
Let me tell you, I can understand why
he's like that in the first scene too. Right?
Who sleeps with a hat on?
Yeah.
Come on now.
No. I can understand why he wears that
Arnie sleeps with a hat.
Yeah,
I mean, look at him.
This never comes off my head.
That's one of the first things I thought about him when I first saw him. I was like, that guy sleeps with a hat.
I can honestly, if my hair looked like Ness's, I would also wear a hat all the time. My man needs a comb, like stat.
He just has bedhead. It's okay.
Except for the comb would come alive and attack him. That's the problem.
You people with hair on your heads, you're so privileged. You don't understand what it's like to not have this joy that you can just let free. You're covering it with hats.
Okay, but
and
to be
stuff.
fair, I could not grow as majestic a beard as you have.
Fair. I need something to avoid you looking like a cue ball. So I mean,
yeah. And what would the final say on a Nintendo game be if it didn't have the clan in it? So obviously the happy cultists were made to look slightly less like members of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
And I think by that...
How? Because they sure do look like Klansmen.
I was going to say, I guess they're blue?
Like, what? I guess we took out the burning crosses? What?
You know, honestly, would not be
They're
shocked.
ghost costumes.
Yeah, exactly. They think their cult is all about it being Halloween every day.
Every day.
Yes.
So, you know, that one I get. That one I'm like, all right. That one's probably okay. Just imagine.
I think that one checks out. Yeah,
some American mom walking into this.
Taking the crosses off of hospitals always struck me.
That one's weird. That one I don't get at all. But you know, it is what it is.
Didn't they do that in Final Fantasy too? The first Final Fantasy, didn't they take like crosses off churches? And
I know
shit?
they did it in Devil World. They changed like a whole bunch of shit in that game. But you know. It's always fun. Still couldn't, even the censoring couldn't make this game less weird. I think if anything, it makes it slightly more weird.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay.
But that was our chat about Earthbound. Now we're going to take one last break. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Back, just to wrap us up, you know, it can get a little. I think it's weird to me because we've all talked about it and our personal experience with it, and we all like the game. At least I'm assuming you guys like the game. You could be lying to me. And so I think it's very easy for somebody looking back on Earthbound, especially nowadays, to be like, oh yeah, this game was great. It's groundbreaking. Like everybody fucking loved it. Like it's always been good. It's always been like a game that everybody's always loved. Not the case at all. You know, it's one of those games where it came out here and the reception was mixed. You know, like some people really liked it, some people did not. It only, you know, in Japan, for contrast here, Japan, Earthbound sells over 500,000 units. In America, doesn't even crack 150K, like about 140,000. Not good numbers, you know. And there are
how much of that. Mm-hmm? How much of that was marketing?
Oh,
so much of that had to been on the shoulders of the marketing campaign.
Yeah,
there's definitely been a lot of speculation about like what happened here.
Also, like the game was very expensive, and it wasn't really properly articulated
and
as to
RPGs
why.
weren't that popular.
You know,
North America at that time
they still
either.
weren't.
Still a
niche.
Yep.
And 95, you're seeing the PlayStation, you're seeing the Saturn. Like people
Yeah, which is hard. Sometimes it's hard for people to like grasp that concept too, Kelly. Which is like people are like, "Oh no, RPGs have always been cool." And it's like, no dude, like, they gave away Dragon Warrior for free because they were like, nobody's gonna buy this, you know. But yeah, you know, like obviously the lack of sale. I mean, some people blame the marketing campaign, which I agree with you, Stephan. Like that has to bear a lot of it has to fall on the shoulders of that marketing campaign, because it's not that it was an underwhelming marketing campaign, is that it was actively pushing people away from buying the game. You know, like if you see, because obviously the game's expensive, but there were other expensive titles, like Chrono Trigger wasn't cheap either. And that game sold decently well. I mean, I think, I'm talking out of my ass right now, but I think it sold at least better than Earthbound did. And I think it was definitely better received than Earthbound did at the time. And I think that marketing campaign has a lot to do with it. But obviously, you know, we've talked about a lot of stuff that we really like that I think a lot of reviewers at the time just did not have time for. The graphics, the music, the like quirky sort of gameplay features, the weird story, you know, like a lot of that stuff has aged well, like as time has gone on. But like in 1995, when you're in the thick of it and you don't have like 20 years of like other games that have been like inspired by Earthbound and have tried to do some similar things, this fucking thing comes out of nowhere, you know, and you're just like, it's good, I guess. Like, I don't know. There's so much going on. Like Paul said, it's towards the end of the life cycle of Super Nintendo, and there's other RPGs coming out. You know, this is going up against Titans, you know, like huge games that are just like redefining what we think of as like 16-bit RPGs, and Earthbound just sort of like has to fit in there somewhere, but doesn't really find its footing right away. You know, so the game did not do that well at release, but obviously, as we know now, time heals all wounds, and it's now worth like $1,000.
No, it's worth about it's over
I don't know.
2,000. So
yeah, more.
Well, complete in box if you're talking. Anyways.
So you know, I mean, I'm so fucking sad that I didn't get to buy this game at like $20 when people were just throwing it into the garbage, just like, hey, that's everybody's story. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I bought it for like $40, you know, it was good, I liked it, now I really like it. Now it's my favorite game. But yeah, so moving us on from there to present day, what's the legacy of Earthbound? Now, what we see, or at least what I see, and you guys tell me if you agree with this, Earthbound, and by extension the Mother series in general, regarded as what has to be one of the most well-beloved video games of our time, right? Like the Earthbound community, as we've talked about, a minority, but goddamn if they aren't some of the most dedicated, like, rip your head off to tell you how much they love Earthbound fans in all of gaming. Like they will never, like, they'll listen to this podcast and they'll be like, this is too short, like we needed a longer Earthbound episode, we need the 5-hour like director's cut of this episode. I'm ready for it, man. I'm ready for it. You know, it's so well regarded now, and obviously, you know, I you know, it's I see this a lot, and I wonder if it has something to do with it. With the exception of maybe F-Zero fans at this point, because I was gonna say Metroid fans, but they just got a new game, so fuck them. I don't think there is another fan base that has been more ignored by Nintendo, like actively ignored by them, than the Mother crowd. You know, in terms
for a first party property, that's probably true.
Yeah, in terms of just being like, oh, you want this? You want this? This is what you want?
I mean, even the Star Fox kids get a game.
Exactly. Shit, Star Fox got like a game on the Wii U. Yeah. You know, like, that wasn't that long ago. But Earthbound, nah, nothing. 15 years and counting, baby, and we're still going strong. So I don't know, Paul, as a F-Zero fan, are you now an Earthbound fan, and does that mean that you're being doubly ignored by Nintendo?
I mean, yes. If there was a new Earthbound game, I would actually legitimately be excited. Yep. But is that gonna happen? Oh boy, it's not. It's impossible. Itoi's not making any more games, right?
He has openly said that he will not make another Earthbound game.
Exactly. So without him doing it, look, I'm kind of coming around on this stuff as I get older. I care less and less about receiving sequels and more about just kind of appreciating what we got. And Earthbound, I'm glad I finally got around to playing it. It lived up to the hype. I mean, if you're asking me what its legacy is, I think it's a legacy of charm. Like, there's other games that have been directly inspired by it. You mentioned here in the outline, like Undertale and Contact and so on.
God, I love
and those
Contact.
Those are also beloved games as well, right? So
I know Kelly likes Costume Quest, and that's definitely got some Earthbound influences in it.
What is Costume Quest, Kelly? Like, I hear this pop up every once in a while, and I have never looked this up.
It's a very short RPG. You can probably finish it in 6-7 hours, and it's just kids that go from like town to town trick or treating, and like there's monsters in some of the houses, so you have to fight them, and you have to figure out what's going on and why. It's just a really simple, fun RPG that can be played real quick.
You had me at 6 hours.
I'm saying, right?
And I think was that a Double Fine production?
Yes, it was. And there is a sequel. I do prefer the original, just because it was a simple,
because you're an elitist.
and they have to expand the sequel and, make it time travel and everything else, where you just have the kids running around trick-or-treating, and the first one bobbing for apples, so on and so forth. And it's just simple and cute.
And I gotta say one more thing too. And I don't see this happen in that many games nowadays. Maybe I haven't played Undertale. I still haven't played Undertale, so maybe it happens there. But the amount of detail that was put into all the NPCs in this game, it feels, look, I mean, it's a video game, right? You can only have so much character, but it feels kind of Simpsons-esque in a way, where you have this like wide variety of NPCs that are all, fairly unique. It's not like you're just walking into generic town and, you talk to this person. I see this actually a little bit in like Trails games, right? Where you walk into a town, people have names, they have problems, but even still in Earthbound, like, man, they just have so much color, so much pop, all these NPCs.
Yeah.
Like, there's even the guy, like, digging for gold.
Yeah, the guy who tried to sell you his house at the beginning of the game for, like, $7,500.
I hate that guy. That motherfucker. And then I buy the house, and it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I've never bought the house. Is it possible to buy the house at the beginning?
I'm sure there's some insane guy who fought like 27,000 crows to get the money. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure there was. Yeah. No, I went back and bought it later, and it's trash. It's a trash house sold by a trash human being, and I really thought that it would be cool, and it wasn't, and I hate that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who Ness's dad is, but whoever he is, I mean, that dude must be flush with GameStop stocks or something, because he is depositing serious cash in your account towards the end of the game.
For real, man. It's like he's got a child actor for a son or something.
Yeah, so, and speaking of Ness, like, he's sort of become an icon in his own right in the video game world. I love talking about this stuff because ever since I owned Paul on our Fire Emblem episode, when I said that the reason some of those games came over was because they included Martha and Roy in Smash Brothers, and he was like, that's not possible. And then he found out that it was.
It was totally fucking possible.
Ness being included in
it was likely.
Yeah, exactly. But Ness being included in the original Smash Bros. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, no idea who the fuck he was when I played that game. I was like, and then boy. Yes, my favorite Nintendo character, right next to Jigglypuff. But he's sort of now developed like his own sort of, obviously his own fandom and whatnot. People love cosplaying Ness. It
was a super easy cosplay.
Very easy. Very easy. But obviously appearing in, Super Smash Bros. And then obviously they massacred my boy. They replaced him in Mother 3 with that goddamn blonde piece of shit, Lucas.
Hate that guy.
Fuck.
You haven't
He
even
looks
played
like
the game. How can you hate that guy?
He always
Don't worry about it.
Honestly, he reminds me of the kid who I also think was named Lucas from The Wizard. With his goddamn blonde hair and his fucking superior attitude.
With the power
Hell
glove.
yeah.
That's right. He loves the power glove, Paul.
So bad.
It's so bad.
So bad. That kid also only wears Vision streetwear.
Yes.
Like that's the only thing. He has like a bunch of costume changes throughout that movie. It's all fucking Vision. It's like, what is that?
Yeah, if
what?
Lucas was a real person, he would just wear Supreme all the time.
Yep.
So, and I think Mr. Saturn was like made a trophy in Smash Brothers and stuff. Like Sakurai really likes Earthbound. You can tell. And I think people appreciate like seeing those nods and stuff like that. But I think at this point for fans, it's just another sort of stab in the gut, just another reminder that they don't have what they really want, which is Mother 3.
I can't believe we've gone on for 2 hours, and that was the first time Mr. Saturn was brought up.
Yep.
I can't believe it.
You might know him from his iconic lines like Zoom.
And boing boing.
That's right.
He's so fantastic. How does he eat? He has no hands. He's a giant head on 2 feet.
On 2 stubby feet.
So great.
But he can work a conveyor belt like no one's business.
It's true.
The Mr. Saturns are the next step of human evolution. This is what our ancestors will become.
I can't wait.
My favorite thing about Saturn Village is that they just like randomly put telephones on these giant pedestals that you have to climb with ladders. Like, why? Again, a city with a lot of ladders in it for people who don't have any hands. That's got to be that's a challenge, man. That's creating your own hard mode right there.
They psychically float up to the top of the ladder.
Maybe.
With their Saturn pendants and all their snazzy accessories that they were very happy to sell me. All their fucking tchotchkes.
I wore the shit out of those.
Also, I've never wanted a voiceover for a character that just so I knew like someone talking in that large a font, like what that actually sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know how somebody would talk in like the verbal equivalent of Comic Sans, but I'd really like to know.
Yeah. Like 72-point Comic Sans.
Just somebody like blowing out your CRT speaker as he's yelling like boing boing every time. Just a violent scream. And yeah, I think before we sort of go around and talk about the last part, which is just the overall legacy of the game, I don't think I've ever seen a series of games that has survived so many setbacks, roadblocks, adversity. From the very first game all the way to the very last one, Itoy never had a smooth production. And maybe that's why he stopped making games. Maybe it was like, man, this shit is gonna kill me. Like I've worked 30 years and I've put out 3 games. Like I don't think this is the optimal route for me. But it really speaks to me, at least, that it sort of has that resonance with, and Stephan talked about it earlier, with that aspect of the game, which is that like obstacles come up and you rely on other people to help you and you lean on your friends and you ultimately get over those obstacles and you make it to your destination. You at the end
of the day, you just make a wada.
That's right. And what if Satoru Iwata just found out that the real Earthbound was the friends they met along the way, It's all.
Or how different the world would be if he took a look at the project that day and he's like, no, that's too hard. Fuck that.
What if he looked at it and he was like, you should release this right now. This is perfect. Don't change anything. Exactly. Just tank the whole production. So, I mean, for me, it's just that story of like Shigesato Itoi, much like Ness, like would not be stopped. He was like, I'm making this goddamn game, even if it kills me. And I have to believe that at some points, it probably almost did. He wanted to tell his story ever since he played Dragon Quest II and wrote those damn ideas down in that notebook. And it took him a long time, but he did it. He told that story. And I think people really liked him, I think people really appreciate him and appreciate the contributions that he's made. And I think if you play Earthbound, if you take nothing else away from this episode, I think if you play Earthbound, you'll get a better sense for the man who made it, and you'll understand a little bit more about his journey. And I think it will give you a better sense of like what video games can do as a medium, not just as a form of entertainment, but as an actual artful expression of a creator's like mind. I don't know, Paul. What do you think?
No, I agree with you, and I'm not just saying that because we're running out of time.
Stephan, anything else?
He's like, but we are. We are.
Listen, this is my trademark. I always go over.
Yes,
but just let me know, man. What you got anything else you want to throw in here right at the end about Earthbound, its legacy, whatever it means to you?
I mean, it's like I said, it was a gateway drug for me in a lot of ways to what became my favorite genre, and I do think that RPGs by and large would look very different if that one day Satoru Iwata just said, no, I'm not going to do this, let's just kill it, because that would have been the next conversation. Like they went to him and like, hey, can you save this? If he would have been like, no, they'd have been like, all right, we're done here. And how different the genre, but in some ways the industry would look, right? Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I'm real thankful for it, and yeah, I mean, I think even people who don't appreciate Earthbound, I think can at least like appreciate it for changing the face of the industry in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Kelly?
Earthbound for me, basically first modern RPG I played, and I love like you mentioned Costume Quest, Undertale, so just knowing that game influenced them, it's a great thing. Also, my collection would look a lot different if Earthbound didn't exist, because one of the things I'm known for is the copy of Earthbound, and I have the air freshener, so just it's just weird that's kind of one of the legacies that I see when I look at the game.
It is what it is, man. It is. And you know what, Paul, let me ask you this, because you gave me such a short answer. I want to ask you one last question before we close out.
You're going to get another one, but go ahead.
If Itoi never made another Earthbound game, but he did try to make, if he wanted to make another game, just in general, do you think he should? Like, would you like to see another Itoi game that's not Earthbound? Because he's so singularly known for that one thing.
Strangle it in the grave.
Yeah, no, with his particular mind, yes.
Yeah.
You could ask me this question of a lot of different developers, and I'd say, nah, they might be out of touch.
Yeah.
The style might be a little bit too old. The gentleman who made Fire Emblem originally, whose name I can't remember, he's a guy who made a follow-up, a fairly modern follow-up. But
that was just Fire Emblem again.
Yeah, it was just Fire Emblem again. And I'm like, you know what, man? Maybe we should hang that one up.
Yeah.
But with Itoi, with his brain, yeah, I'd welcome another game. But it's not going to happen.
Bro, get ready.
Well, and I don't know that
get ready for this PS5 Monopoly RPG I've been working on with Itoi. It's going to fucking blow your goddamn socks off.
I just don't know if you'd ever hit the hype, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it's for the same reason, like, we'll never see a another Half-Life 3, right? Like, why that will always be a meme. We are never going to see Half-Life 3, because, like, there's no way that whatever they produced could ever hit the marks that it would need to be successful.
100%.
So
100%. I agree with you. I'd love to see it. I think the man has, he has more stories to tell, and I think his brain just works in that way that I'm like, show me more, man. Like, you like David Lynch of video games or some shit. Like, I just want to see the crazy shit you can come up with. And I know that even if I don't get it, I'll be entertained by it. But as all good things must come to an end, so must this podcast, especially because Paul is actively trying to punch me through the screen.
Sure am.
So all I can say is thank you guys so much. Stephan, thank you for coming back on and talking about this game.
Yeah, of course.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Kelly, Paul, thank you for coming along with me on this magical ride. Checking another one off the box that I want to do. Come back for Final Fantasy VI later in the year as I close out my trilogy of RPG episodes. Stephan, please plug away. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you're doing right now.
Easiest thing to do is just Google Art of Nintendo Power. That name has very powerful SEO. I will be the first thing that you find if you Google Art of Nintendo Power. But I run a nonprofit called the Interactive Art Collection. We are a traveling art museum with a sole focus of art in the video game industry. Art of Nintendo Power is our flagship exhibit. So if you have a convention or love a convention near you and would like to see the Art of Nintendo Power come to your convention, let me know. DMs are open, as they say, as the kids say, on Twitter. Twitter's definitely the best place to, like, if you want to actually interact with me, it's Twitter. Yeah. So it's art of NP, or like I said, just Google Art of Nintendo Power. That's how you find me.
Nice.
Awesome.
And I can vouch as somebody who's followed him on Instagram and Twitter. He's got some cool shit. Like, you want to see this stuff.
Do. Yeah, no, 100%. And the museum, the traveling museum, that is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
It's also very difficult and expensive.
Of course it is.
Support me.
But
There
nothing's
you go.
worth it that's not difficult. It's a great idea.
Right. All right, guys. And as far as we're concerned, you can hit up our link tree, linktr.ee/regionfreegamers. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, join our Discord, which you can join for free or get some extra perks if you're you know what I'm saying. If you give me a little cash on the side.
No, wait, what are you saying?
I'm talking.
No. You know what? No, never mind.
I'm talking OnlyFans.
No, keep going.
I'm talking
No,
maybe some
keep going.
sexy pictures every once in a while. If you're really like donating a lot, maybe I'll call.
Yeah.
If you give me your phone number, we can like text, and I can call you and like wish you a good night or something.
Why are you threatening patrons?
I don't like this at all.
bring me Fuzzy Pickles taking pictures
you
of
think
kids
Fuzzy
instead.
Pickles is bad? No.
That's right. I will call you and make Mr. Saturn sounds into your voicemail so you can use them to go to sleep at night.
What does that even sound like?
Boing, boing. But yes, so that's it for us, guys. Thank you so much. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Boing, boing.